almost about $20 billion was stolen from the country in different forms of corruption and everything. So all the growth and transformational plans that were happening in Ethiopia in different ways, all the money donated and raised for the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam was stolen. Hello guys, welcome to Dejene Ethiopia Tours. My name is Dejene Hodes, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that's slightly sensitive in Ethiopia, and we're going to be discussing different things and my thoughts and what's going on. I moved back to Ethiopia from the US. I am an Ethiopian American and decided to make my living in Ethiopia, grow my business in Ethiopia and everything. So this conflict and the disturbance going on in Ethiopia, the way it affects the whole country, the economy is a big blow to what I'm trying to do, what I was passionate about, and what I moved back to do. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that I have a very big stake in this, and I'm not just somebody talking about it. And I also haven't said anything before about this other than talking to family and friends. It's very hard to say what's the right reasons and who's right, who's not right, and what's going on really, because the information is so different depending on where you're looking at it from. So, there's no real way to say something with a 100% accuracy or some degree of accuracy or educated level. So I just sustained from saying anything like that. But right now it's just too big of a deal not to say anything, and it's just too sad. So I just wanted to put that in there. I hope you let me know what you think. So right now, Ethiopia is at war with domestic opposition group that happens to be in the Tigray region, fighting against the government right now, led by Dr. Abiy. And so in order to talk about this, I kind of have to go back a little bit to discuss about the history and what has come so far and what my thinking is to what led to all this fighting, domestic disturbances, and the different groups that have been created in the north and the south that are trying to take power, that don't like the government as it is right now. So first of all, Ethiopia has been led by one leader for about 25 years. I think his party has been in power for almost 30 years now, but Meles Zenawi was the leader for Ethiopia for a very long time, 20-something years, and he had a very strong grip on almost everything that happened in Ethiopia. So, and for that, as a leadership, there's one of the things that he was very heavily criticized for, and also a small disturbance happened, but he used force to quash that, was that he was mainly dividing the country up into regions, into tribes, and they be led by themselves. In a way, everybody protested against that, saying, this was a form of divide and conquer. It wasn't for the country. It's not a good thing to have in a country where there's 80-something tribes to have division of that kind of division, where the country is made out of tribes and regions. So that was a very big criticism against them. So since Meles's passing, there's been a whole lot of things coming up that are causing a lot of the chaos to what is happening right now. Mostly after he passed away, the amount of corruption, and how much power he had over the influence of the country, because almost about $20 billion was stolen from the country in different forms of corruption and everything. So all the growth and transformational plans that were happening in Ethiopia in different ways, all the money for the dam, a lot of the money that was donated and raised for the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam was stolen. All the sugar factories and everything that was, kind of huge projects that were heavy for the country, a lot of the money was stolen and everything. And, previously, before Dr. Abiy came into power, there's kind of a whole lot of disturbances and protests in every region, and Hailemariam gave up power and resigned. After that, when Abiy came into power, then he started talking about the peace and the forgiveness even though he is from the same party that have been leading Ethiopia for a long time, but he was coming as a reformist, and from his first speech, he kind of had high hopes, just the peaceful, the love, and the country, and all the stuff that he was talking about.
We will address all the troubles witnessed in the country, and I promise to deliver for the people of Ethiopia and reverse their grief. I call on all Ethiopian people inside the country or abroad. It's time for us to forgive each other, close the yesterday's chapter, and move on to the next chapter with national unity and consensus.
Forgiving different power in different ways. People, corruption and everything, forgave all the political prisoners, journalists and everything, and freed everybody. Not everybody, but majority of people who were accused of political causes without any evidence of them doing wrong. They were forgiven, and known even within the country, a moment of forgiveness and everything. So all that made everybody happy, obviously, and the people that were being released and everything, and also the people that fled the country to other diaspora, living in the diaspora, that were politically asylum or all different forms that had fled the country. He said, you're forgiven, you're more than welcome to come back to the country and be part of the growth and the prosperity of Ethiopia. A lot of the big analysts, or political analysts from different regions said, could this backfire on Abiy as a leader? Because Ethiopia doesn't have a long history with democracy, that kind of democracy that he was talking about. It's always some form of democracy with tied into restricted movements. But now you're saying freedom of speech, political prisoners are free, we are forgiving people, and we're starting new. So that, in a country without a very high level of education for democracy and different forms of education and philosophy, was a big problem. And a lot of people are saying, could this backfire on him? So about a year after his being in power and all that, things started happening. All the different people that he had freed that were first or hooray and supportive and everything, then started having their own ideas. So for me, the problem there was I really didn't know which person was honest, or which person was really fighting for his country, in a way to say, the right reasons and stuff. Because a lot of the leaders seemed to me to be very one ethnic group based. So their philosophy was, this, my ethnicity group should be a leader, which is not right. I mean, Ethiopia is one country, even though we have, all the 80-something tribes, is one country, led as one country, and history has always been like that. So the thing that bothered me was a lot of the leaders, so we couldn't say, they're really fighting for this change to happen in Ethiopia as a whole that's progressive and amazing and a good change. So, and then when you look at it from Abiy's side, he was doing a lot of things that were so right, that excited everybody. The peace with Eritrea, something that's been going on for 20-something years. And then making the 50% of the cabinet women, which was amazing, very high push. Making the parliament, right now the parliament is about 37% female in Ethiopia, much higher than it is in the US or anywhere, a lot of places really. A very progressive move. And then within that, the economic movements that he's been pushing. So that whole excited everybody, excited me, excited, around the world, which ended up, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, which is one of the highest awards you can get as a leader for a cause and everything. But with all that change comes a lot of change to the old guard, or the people that were in power before, or the people who had different ideas, and everything that they were fighting for to keep before. Now they're all being displayed position of power and everything. So this leads me right into what is the leader of the opposition fight right now in Tigray. He was one of the people that was actually said to be in power before Abiy. He lost to Abiy. He's part of the party that has been leading Ethiopia for the past 20-something years, 27 years or 30 years. He's part of the first founding of those. So he claims he has the right, and Abiy's not right and stuff. But at the end of it, with all that conflict of going on with one leader to another person that was supposed to be in power that didn't, or another person that thinks it's now time for this tribe to be a leader or that tribe to be a leader. It's so many different philosophies, and all of them have in a way resolved to some kind of violent and threatening and all kind of different forms. Whereas in a country where for the first time you have freedom of speech to really say whatever you want, as long as it's true and accurate and informative, why not take the leadership of the great leaders that have peacefully protested against major things, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, in Africa, Mandela, like people who really led a huge movement against very big opposition to be very successful in what they did. So Ethiopia, I feel like, is at that moment where a true leader would come in a peaceful way, have an idea, have a movement, and lead. And I think that's where the violence is going on. Right now, the Tigray people are paying for this violence that's not really caused by them or anything like that, but the opposition party or opposition group happens to be within their base, so they're suffering for it, which is very sad. I mean, it's a devastating thing for people who also been through an amazing amount of war beforehand. When the party, the TPLF, the Tigray Liberation Front, was started, they started from Tigray and they fought against the Derg, or the dictatorship that Ethiopia had gone through before that. So they've gone through so much war, and now the same thing is happening. So it's kind of very devastating and very sad, and it's really something that should be resolved peacefully and outside of war in a political, democratic way. That's my feeling for it, because the problem now is, even if this escalates into a huge thing, which a lot of people are fearing, then it takes the whole eastern Horn of Africa down with it, because Ethiopia is one of the most stable countries in this region and has been one of the stable grounds, creating peace agreements, even sending peaceful troops to Somalia, and everything. So if we in Ethiopia go into chaos or war and stuff, it really destabilizes a lot of our neighboring countries also, and the whole region. So this is something that should be taken seriously between the two leaders, of saying, it's more than us. We're affecting a lot more than just 2 people, 3 people, or whatever. This is affecting a whole country, a whole region, a whole tribe. And so that's my thoughts on it. I just wanted to cover a slight base of this, because I don't want to ignore it, but it's so hard to have an opinion of this is right or that's wrong, when everybody says I am right. The information you get is from both sides, that they're right and the other person is wrong, and this and that. So as a country led by law, I do agree that the federal government has certain rights. So like the thing that escalated this whole thing was that the election for the prime minister was postponed by Abiy because of Corona, and before that a little bit because of all the disturbance that was happening within the country. And then the Tigray leader said, no, we do not accept that, and they had their own election, which he deemed illegal, and which obviously then they don't take his authority, they don't accept his authority or acknowledge his authority. So that leads to a huge conflict, which we're living through right now. Very sad thing, and I really hope that it would be resolved very soon. I don't know the outcome, because you really don't have enough ground information to say one way or the other for anybody, really. I don't know anybody that has really reported accurately. I've read all the New York Times or the Washington Post or all the articles that that you would rely on. So I don't know what's going to happen, but this is a very sad thing that Ethiopia is going through. But at the same time, I happen to think I have to be positive and I have to be optimistic and start to do what I think will be, this will come to an end soon, and Ethiopia will go on to its prosperity and growth and everything. Is Ethiopia's geographic location, one of its biggest assets? It's a very interesting question to ask, because even right now, as Ethiopia is going through all this domestic war and disturbance and everything, is that it could escalate into leading, a very huge problem for the neighboring countries in Africa. Even right now, Sudan is taking a lot of Tigray refugees. So we want to make sure, and we want to talk about, the different stuff that could affect Ethiopia, but also the positive sides of where Ethiopia is positioned. Because Ethiopia happens to be one of the largest countries that's actually landlocked. So that's a very big problem, because now we have to, shipments and everything we do through Djibouti, and we pay quite a bit for it, but also has created a very unique and strong relationship. So that's good. On the other hand, Ethiopia, the geographic makeup of Ethiopia is actually quite interesting, because we happen to be, have one of the highest, mountain ranges in Africa. About 70% of the mountains are in Africa, really very high region all the way through the country, and also happen to have the lowest region in Africa, and even maybe in the world, next to the Dead Sea. So that's a huge difference in variation of the country. So for like agriculture, it's amazing setup, and the land is fertile and everything, and based on where you are, for example, coffee in the higher regions is different and amazing, and the lower regions have their own different crops and everything that you can grow. And so throughout the country you have variations in huge amounts in what you can do, and Ethiopia is a very big country, so you have variety in that. And also our location happens to be where the Nile starts, our Lake Tana in the northern Ethiopia, which is an amazing source of water and everything for everything you could do. And big points right now happening with Egypt is how fast Ethiopia can fill its dam from the water that flows from the Nile. So which is for Ethiopia an amazing thing, but also a scary thing for Egypt. And that's being resolved, and they're talking, as I was saying, the mountains and the lowlands and everything, the valleys. We have almost everything that you could ask for, the desert. So it's quite amazing for that. And then one of the other things, just because of our location, we happen to be in a very active economic region, because almost 7 out of the 10 countries that are growing the fastest are in Africa, and we happen to be very close to them. And also Ethiopian Airlines, to be one of the major airlines, is the major airline in Africa for all that kind of business travel, cargo and everything like that. So that's a huge advantage just because of our location and our airline being very strong. And then when you come to like the tourism in Ethiopia, that's also another thing that is huge and is growing really fast. And once everything comes down after the COVID and the war, and we get back to normal life, the tourism is one of the sectors of business that's expected to really grow, which I happen to be with Dejan Ethiopia Tours. The tourism industry in Ethiopia has a very, very huge potential, just because of the amount of the work that has been done so far is very limited. So we could go from the northern part of Ethiopia. There's a lot of infrastructure growth and everything that needs to happen, and then as you go down south, that's the same thing. And then the western part and the eastern part, not much has been done in those areas. So amazing resources to see, national parks with an amazing amount of animals and tribes and regions. So that's crazy. And I just wanted to touch up on those things that are very high active economic things that are being affected just because of its geography. So tourism right now is dead, but it's one of the things that's going to come back up economically. So irrigation and agriculture and farming wise, Ethiopia has one of the best locations just because of the amount of water we have. Like I said, the Nile, but we have another huge rivers flowing throughout Ethiopia. So water is not our issue, but how we use water is a big issue. because we're not advanced enough yet for that stuff. So that's one thing I want to push. And yeah, those are the things I really wanted to just touch on, that that affect the Horn of Africa and where it is, just because of its location, the impact, and the deficit that it has. So thank you very much. My name is Dejani Hodes. To see you guys, let me know what you think about the different points that I've raised, and if you have any thoughts that you would like us to touch up on. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like, and hope to see you soon.